Alright, so I'm starting a experiment where I'm comparing different v60 pour over papers. I have 9 different types right now. Hario, the one that came with the Timor Crystal Eye brewer, some Timor ones. I got a bunch of different Cafec ones, light and dark, which is what this is. So far I've tried it with the, I used this hand grinder, the S3, Timor S3, with an Ethiopian coffee, which generally has more fines, light roast, light medium. So the one on the right, I may have switched them up now. No, I think this is the right one. So the one on the right, you can tell there's more stuff hanging off the sides. That's the dark roast profile paper, the dark roast paper. Cafec Dark. I'm gonna have to look up which model number it is because I know they have like T90 and I think there's an 83 that's for dark. I bought a sample pack and they just labeled it like Cafec Light, Cafec Dark, but I'll see. I should be able to figure out which is which. So this was the dark and it flowed better. It didn't stall so much, maybe a tiny bit at the very end. The light one stalled pretty bad on the very final thing, so I wonder if it's because more fines didn't stick to the sides. So I don't know. I did some swirling as well, and I did a 5-pour recipe, which is a thermal shock. The first 2 are basically blooms, and then another 3 regular small pours. Yeah, so I was also doing some agitation where I was shaking it up a little. So I don't know if like the initial agitation, maybe I did it better on this one and I got more of the fines to stick to the sides and that's why it flowed better, or it's the filter, but we'll have to test again. But oh, you know what? I did mix them up. Oh no, I didn't, because the fines are more in here. Yeah, this, all I know is the one that flowed nicer was the dark roast one, and I put that in the darker colored cup, so I didn't mix them up, even though I might seem confused now that I finished the coffees and compared them. Yeah, I just put these back on for showing the coffee beds. But yeah, so you could tell this one looks like it's nicer, but there's more fines kind of towards the bottom, where this one has more of the fines on the top. And yeah, and then that would prevent it from stalling as much, theoretically, which I think is what happened. But despite the stalling on the light roast one, I tried, so I separated, I put it on a different cup to finish because it was taking forever to finish draining. Just like a last little bit of water. And I tried that extra, the stalled drips, and it was actually not bad. It wasn't over extracted and bitter like it usually sometimes is. So I decided to I put most of that back in. I may have, I sipped it before. I sipped the more concentrated, like I didn't want to have it so that, let's say 30 or 20 milliliters of water didn't drip through. That would throw off the brew ratio, and this one would be more concentrated than this one. So after tasting it, I decided to add most of that extra water back in. I also tasted it before adding it, so both times I thought this one was better tasting. So the light roast one, despite the stalling, I like that filter paper better, unless it was just a coincidence. I'll have to, test again to confirm. But this light one is going to go on to the next round in the tournament and face another filter paper. And we'll see which one ends up being my favorite. And then maybe I'll confirm, do a few more random tests just to make sure. But yeah, I'm probably going to mix up the coffee because I'm not going to have that much of this one left to do the same coffee for all the filter tournaments. But as long as I'm doing one coffee versus the same coffee, it should be fine with the same grinder. Yeah, so I'm gonna do this one. The light one goes on to the next one, and the dark one is out for now. I might give it another chance because it seems like, sometimes you just might get a bad brew. I know people say the v60 is kind of inconsistent, but that's what I like brewing it, so that's what I'm gonna test with. And also these are v60 papers, so. So the reason why I chose the light roast one over the dark roast paper, the dark roast seemed more one-dimensional. It seemed like it was maybe stronger. It had more of a harsh acidity, less balance. It was more like treble, like high-end treble, where this one had more mids and it seemed more balanced and I don't know, it just seemed nicer to me. It seemed like this was kind of emphasizing like the acidity, like maybe because it's for dark roast, it's supposed to bring out like some more sparkle in a dark roast. That's what it seemed like it's trying to do, which would make sense. So a lot of people recommend the dark Cafec filters because it flows faster and doesn't stall. But that may be a mistake if this is a typical result. So you may not be getting the best out of your light roast coffee using the dark roast paper, because it's not designed for that. So despite how it flows, I preferred this one. But in order to be conclusive, I'd have to test a bunch of times. But so far, that's my initial findings. One test, 1 out of 1, and light roast 1 despite stalling. So yeah. Maybe stalling doesn't matter. This is also a worst case scenario. Like I was using Ethiopian coffee that has more fines. I was doing 5 small pours. More pours migrates more fines to clog the filter potentially. I was also doing some agitation. So like if I would have done a 4-pour recipe, it would have been fine. It wouldn't have stalled. So yeah, if I didn't do agitation, maybe it wouldn't have stalled. This potential stalling, I don't think is a reason to avoid the Cafec Light filters, especially when it did a good job even with the stalling.